Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. I'm joined by Amy Canavan and Tony Haggerty for the Monday Bulletin. Loads of positivity flowing just before we came on there, and there's a lot to be happy about. I'll come to you first, Tony. We watched the Dundee United game in the studio yesterday. You done a watch along, and I watched it out the front with Tommy Sheridan, Frank McGarvey, Stevie Mullen, and Shuggy Farrell in what I christened ACSOM's version of Gogglebox, because it was just like that. It was just like that. Honestly, we should have just put the camera on those four guys and fed the world a wee bit of hilarity. It was tremendous. But let's start off with the performance, Tony Haggerty. It was the rip-roaring, the free-scoring, the never-boring copyright Tony Haggerty, wasn't it?
It certainly was, but I see that's been doing the rounds in other places. You know what I mean? There you go. What is it they say about it?
Mate, listen, mate. I mean, it's just flattering. Yes, it is. Yeah. It must be murder going to your bed, never having a creative idea in your life, eh?
Oh, well, I'll leave that to others. But yeah, I thought it was the rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring. And had Celtic won 6-0, you wouldn't have complained, really, would you?
You couldn't complain, mate.
From the get-go, they were on it. That was supposed to be a game that was going to cause us real problems, especially with certain personnel missing. And from the start, that to me was a performance what Ange has been talking about, not just winning, but winning with a purpose and winning with a style. I genuinely thought that ticked all those boxes. And I think you could tell from the reaction from the Celtic supporters after it, the reactions from the manager when he held up the scarf. That was a really important win. Kind of shown that you can be missing key personnel and still turn it on. You know, the old song, what is it? Putting on the agony, putting on the style. It reminded me of that a wee bit, you know. So, and I think because a lot of Celtic supporters went into that game with a wee bit of trepidation, and do you know what? That performance was, to me, it's arguably the best performance of the season, because there was so many good things. And if you're nitpicking slightly, I met Kevin Graham in a car park on the way in, and he said, we should have won 6-0. I was like, yeah, Kyogo should have had a hat-trick, and others should have. I said, I get that. But you know what? Despite the fact that it never fell for Kyogo, it did fall for Kyogo in front of goal, and he missed a couple of chances, but he was still an 8 out of 10 performer.
Yeah,
you know, he didn't let it affect him. He got on with it. He knows his worth to that team. You know, and even Scales coming on, scoring a lovely goal, brilliant take. I know it got a wee slight deflection, but he got it on target. Many players have you seen sky them or hit them wide the target, or you know, and took his chance when he got it. And there's just so many good things about yesterday. And, Tom Roderick's goal, pick any tune you want and set it to music. It's wonderful, isn't it? It's just a wonderful football goal, and you know exactly what's happening, but players can't nudge him off the ball when he's got it.
It was sublime. Tony, you'll all be aware of the Tam Selleck account. Tam Selleck's son that does the videos. You're talking about putting that to music. That's exactly what I watched when I finally got home last night, and it was a thing of absolute supreme beauty, wasn't it?
A thing of beauty, yeah. And you know what? He's done it so many times. I said that my problem with Tom Roderick was that he wasn't consistent enough. He scored wonderful goals, but he didn't marry them with performances. That's just Tom Roderick's best season in a Celtic jersey, without question. And it's no surprise that the manager who's getting a tune out of Tom Roderick is a guy that's worked with him before, and it's his compatriot, and he's probably told him, Tom, you know, show the world what you can do. This is a guy who was heading out the door under various managers.
Yep.
Having 60 minutes here or there. I know he got 68 yesterday, but you know, he's just coming back from injury, and I get that. But his contribution this season's been, you know, immeasurable. And that early goal just settled everybody down. The manner of the goal and the way they were playing, you just thought, it's a matter of time here, isn't it? And he just allows... I'm talking about, you know, I jokingly call McGregor, Turnbull and Roderick Celtic's answer to the Holy Trinity. But it's fast becoming that. You know, those three midfielders are quite potent. You know, and yesterday was a kind of poetry in motion yesterday at Tannadice, because McGregor was utterly outstanding. Running out of words to describe McGregor, really. But he's just the heartbeat of that team, big time.
Oh, definitely. He is the orchestrator. And I'm going to break the performance down and focus mainly on individual performances within the Celtic side, some of whom have been mentioned by Tony, because you can't avoid, Amy, talking about yesterday without talking about the likes of Tommy Rogic. When you look at that performance, we have seen games this season where we've dominated halves, we've dominated games, but it didn't have the kind of final product. What do you think was different yesterday?
I don't really know. Something was just clicking. There was a positivity definitely about the side. I don't think anybody can probably answer that, because if they could, if Ange could certainly answer that, he'd be making sure that happens week in, week out. And if the players knew that, they'd be making sure that happens week in, week out. But no, there was definitely a confidence about yesterday in the final third. Even the opportunities that didn't go into the back of the net, they were as good as the one just before Turnbull's goal. When it kind of like knocks off his thigh, Seagrass gets out pretty well, and it is a bit of ricochet. It's a bit lucky, but even that is all the build up to that. There was just a real confidence within the final third, and again, I don't really know why, because I was kind of on the same basis as Tony, that without Jota there was a little bit of not a worry or a concern, but you can have that little bit of doubt, because he is, without doubt, Celtic's most crucial player.
He's Celtic's David Ginola, isn't it, Amy? Well,
there you go. If that's what you want, you can make those all you want, those comparisons. But he is having that kind of importance, isn't he? So I don't know. Perhaps there was a lesser intent, not needing to always go out to Jota, because it's been, over the last few weeks, it's been abundantly clear that Jota's been, far more effective than, well, it's usually been a bad on the other side. I don't know, perhaps it's just been a bit more free, that Turnbull and Rogic have both stepped in, but you can't underestimate, the impact that Tom Rogic is having. When he's backfiring fit, Celtic are a different animal. And I know a lot of people wanted him over in the summer, and it has been kind of for a few seasons, but I've said all along, I am a massive Tom Rogic fan, and I think when he puts in performances like that, I understand for other people that must be the frustration, because they know that that's what he can do, and when he doesn't do it, it is frustrating. But I just think you've got to have that guy, in and around your team, because he's oozes classiness, and there's nobody in the Scottish Premiership that comes even close to him.
Nah, the magnetic toe of Tommy Rogic. When we look at that performance, and all this done with a depleted team, because obviously we had 3 injuries against Hearts on Thursday night. In comes Mikey Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Greg Taylor. Who do you think stakes a claim? I know that Carter-Vickers is a first choice, Tony, but do you think that Mikey Johnson or Taylor impressed yesterday?
I thought Taylor was very good yesterday. I thought he did fairly well. I didn't think Mikey Johnson did too much wrong yesterday. Didn't think it was a game changer or a great performance, but I thought he was all right. I mean, everybody knows my thoughts on Mikey Johnson, but I think he just gets swept up with the general vortex of the team, because the play was very good. So it wasn't hard to look okay in that team, but there was a lot of standouts for me. I didn't think Mikey Johnson was a particular standout, but I'll give him credit. I thought he did well enough. He fitted well enough into the team, and but we've picked him out. Rogic, Turnbull, McGregor, or Magnificent. Taylor, I thought was really good. Juranovic is starting to look the part in his natural habitat. Scales coming on, did well. Adam is an absolute sitter. Kyogo didn't get in the score sheet, but he was still an 8/9 for just his general work rate, his performance, and the fact that he didn't let it get to him. Because he even ran to the supporters at one point. He was conducting the choir, wasn't he? I believe. Got a picture of him conducting the fans singing and stuff, and he's just loving it, right? And a real feel-good factor about Celtic, the supporters, the manager who held the scarf up at the end. I was on the Daily Pod with Celtic Way this morning, and both myself and Graham McGarry, who were on it, we were like, I was concentrating what was on the scarf. I was just hoping it wasn't something stupid. You know what I mean? But
I was just going to say that about orchestrating a song. Sometimes you've got to watch out ones you're orchestrating, Tony.
Yeah, so, and but it was all right. But
well, Kyogo does anyway.
There's a real kind of, you can sense it, can't you? Real feel-good factor and sweeping through Celtic, and there's a real momentum building here, and the fans are in tune with the manager, and the manager in tune with the players, and the players are buying into what they want. You just it's good. You're enjoying it. We don't like to compare and contrast. Last season was just so bad, but it's just everything that last season wasn't. And that's why the Celtic supporters have got a smile on their face. They're enjoying life, they're enjoying their football, and they're approaching these games with confidence that we can swap teams aside. And the team is we've got a manager there that you trust now. Every week he speaks, his public utterances, you're just loving him even more. Mm-hmm. And I keep using this phrase, he gets it. I think everybody's getting it right now. And that's quite a turnaround in 5 months, 6 months.
It's a massive turnaround, and I think that, I'm not going to labour this on this particular podcast. We have spoken about it and will speak about it in great depth as the months come in. The only part of that, Tony, that isn't getting it is when you creak open that dark brown mahogany door of the boardroom at Celtic Park, and you've got a group of people. They've got a group of people smoking cigars around the board table. They don't get it, and we know that, but we're not going to labour that today. There's a very good point coming in from Magnet67, right? So he comes in. What a performance yesterday! You're commenting on YouTube, Magnet. Thanks for getting involved. Would you rest anyone against Betis, Rogic, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Kyogo, or keep the consistency and momentum with the same team? I think that's a brilliant question, because after yesterday, and we'll talk a wee bit nearer the end of the show about the charity weekend, because both of these were in the studio and there was a great buzz about the place, to coin a phrase once used by the maestro. But I was tidying up and I found somebody's notes. Now, there's no name on the notes, so they're obviously tinkering about what team to play against Betis. So I don't know if this was actually discussed on any of the shows yesterday, or if it was just somebody who was having a discussion and said, this is a team I'll play. But there was somebody's notes in the studio. And they certainly would say to Magnet, who came in with a comment there, that we should rest players, because they've written a team here which is heart or bane, with Dane Murray, Urhoghide and Scales as part of a back three. Abada, Shaw, McCarthy, Henderson and Montgomery. I'm going to have to count these players, make sure that we've got enough. With Ayeti and Johnston up front. But I think what you're getting from this is a sense that, yes, there are plenty of fringe players in this squad who they definitely do need game time. I mean, from that list there, right, we've seen plenty of Abada. Maybe he does need a wee bit of game time for his confidence. We've seen plenty of Montgomery, and I think he's definitely one for the future. He's shown us enough that he's going to be in and around the side next. He's maybe at this stage where Welsh was last season, where he's learning, he's making mistakes, but there's something there that there's a player in him. Henderson, there's a player that's kind of disappeared from view. I'm just going to double check. He's not played a game this season, Henderson. Shaw, not played a game since he came in from Sheffield Wednesday. McCarthy, bit like Abada, needs games. Dane Murray, he came in, I thought he played well in Europe, but then he's been playing with the B team. Urhoghide never kicked the ball for Celtic. Scales, impressed when he came on. We'll talk about him later. And Ayeti and Johnston up front. What's your thoughts, Amy? I mean, I don't think he's going to go wholesale, because you're up against a right good team and you're at home. And it'll be near enough a sellout if it's not a sellout, because you're buying the packages in advance. What do you think he'll do on Thursday night?
Well, you've also got to remember, who is going to be who is in the European squad already, because it is not just the general Celtic squad. It is a depleted number. I can see him making some changes, but I'm like you. I don't see him going totally full out. But I would actually like Abada to start, because I think he needs minutes and I think he needs legs, and I know he's been given a lot of time. I appreciate that, but I think the way that I mean that he needs minutes, he needs perhaps a decent performance under his belt, just another one, just to get the confidence going. And well, with Forrest going off yesterday as well, I think Abada probably will be one of those ones. I wouldn't mind seeing Ayeti start, but in that sense, yeah, I wouldn't have Kyogo playing. I wouldn't have Tom Rogic playing. And I know then you could say, well, Tom Rogic needs minutes, but he's not, he's just so good that when he comes back, he doesn't need 5-6 games to get back into his stride. You look at him, he's, and that goal yesterday that he scored, he tried that against Hearts on Thursday night as well, and he wasn't a million miles off it. So it's not just one of those freak moments. It has really been coming. But at the back, I would probably stick with like a little bit of stability, purely because it is that back four yesterday was the first time that back four have played that back four. So I would keep that for Thursday for continuity. But in the midfield, I would have a little bit of rotation. I'm not even sure if Liam Shaw's actually been in the European squad, if I'm honest. And like you say, with Dane Murray, he has been playing with the B side a lot, and he's been playing well, because I do see quite a bit of them. So I can see the back four, or personally, I would like the back four to be kind of what yesterday was for continuity reasons. But absolutely, you want to protect, David Turnbull. After that shocking challenge yesterday, he'll need protected. David Turnbull, Callum McGregor, I'd probably replace him as well, and Tom Rogic just for a bit of freshness. And there's guys there that deserve, a little bit of game time. I wouldn't mind seeing Ewan Henderson. Again, like you say, he's kind of fell off the face of the earth. He's always shown a fair bit of potential, but in saying what I'm saying about that back four yesterday, it's kind of hard to not argue that Liam Scales doesn't deserve a place in that side. So I'm kind of, contradicting myself a little bit. But if going forward Greg Taylor's the man, then I can't see Ange going for that little bit of sentimentality to give Scales arguably a very deserved start. But if Taylor's going to be the guy going forward, then this is a perfect game to build up that relationship with Carl Starfelt on his side, really.
Yeah, we're talking about, after the game when Ange is saluting the fans and everything, but just the celebrations, even, Tony, the goals, celebrating the goal. How could you not celebrate the Tommy Rogic goal? But there were moments last year, and we were looking at everything last year, every nuance of Celtic, then when players weren't really celebrating goals, etc. But there is a togetherness in this team. I think that's coming through loud and clear. Starfelt in particular, big beaming smile running up to Tommy Rogic, who was quite calm, cool and collected as he trotted off. What do you think? There's a lot of comments coming through saying, this is a dead rubber. Let's get some of the young guys in. David Boyle, it's so refreshing to see players coming in when called upon and performing. I look forward to seeing the fringe players on Thursday, particularly Scales and young Monty. I do like Montgomery, I've got to say. And there's a few others along those lines. We've got Les Watts. Mix it up, says Les Watts. It's a dead rubber, says Tim Billy. What do you reckon, Tony? Is Ange that type? Well,
Ange said he likes to see these as a gauge when you play in Europe against the best. So I think he'll work on the premise that Celtic don't play dead rubbers, which is why I think he'll go for a hybrid of first teamers and fringe players, which would, to me, would make real sense. But he'll weigh it up and say, what's more important to Celtic this week? Beating Betis or beating Motherwell on Sunday? We all know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Right? But there's coefficient points at stake as well. And it's fine margins between playing 4 qualifiers and not in future. So everything you do in Europe has a consequence, has a knock-on effect. So, which is why I think you'll go with a hybrid team of some tried and tested. But and he might put it to the body of the cup and say to some players, any fancy arrest, But players want to play, don't they? And they don't like to miss out games, but he might kind of overrule their judgment and say, actually, you're playing. And you might think, oh no, he's put somebody like Kyogo or something, but everybody wants to see Kyogo rested because he could do with a rest because he's played a lot of football, because he came straight from Japanese football into this, and he's not really been rested apart from when he was injured. So these are the things that Ange will be weighing in his mind. Does he let Rogic, as Amy said, keep playing, or does he protect him for Motherwell, and so it's a hard one, isn't it? It really is a difficult one. It's all right saying throw the kids in, that's fine. I get that. I get both kind of sides of it, but I think he'll maybe try, because he does want to test himself against teams in Europe. Real Betis are a decent Spanish La Liga outfit, and also as well, you have a duty to perform for the people that are going to turn up and have paid their money for the tickets, for the packages, and you have a duty to entertain, as our man always said, Bertie, for the Celtic public, and you have a duty to perform for everybody who contributed to the Weekender. People like that who parted with their hard-earned cash, not only for tickets for this game, but for charitable things. You always have a duty to perform for the Celtic supporters. Argument is, do you play your strongest team, knowing that there's, in my opinion, bigger fish to fry 72 hours later? That's what the manager gets paid for. But whatever he does, you will trust Ange's judgment on it. Whatever team he picks, you will say, okay, if that's what Ange wants, then that's what we go with. And the chips fall where they may.
Let's hope the board have the same attitude. If that's what Ange wants, that's what Ange gets. I think there'll be 3 or 4 changes. I reckon it will be a hybrid. Yep.
Yeah, so do I. That's the way I think.
Now, before I get into some of the gorgeous elements of that performance yesterday, I am going to talk about the refereeing. Now, Amy, you have already mentioned David Turnbull. We cannot ignore this. Our players need protection. Celtic players need protection. I'm going to run through here, and please add to the list. Right, I'm now sitting on 7 red cards that were not given against our opposition for what, in the main are dreadful tackles. Right, let's go to the 31st of July. Andy Halliday on Callum McGregor. Referee, Bobby Madden. 26th of September 2021. Jando Fuchs, a player who I actually highly rate, on James McCarthy. Kevin Clancy was the ref. 26th of September 2021, Benjamin Siegrist on Abada. This is one that seems to be forgotten about. He led with his foot up, and that was Kevin Clancy again because it was in the same game. We've got on the 23rd of October, Christopher Kane, basically assaulting Cameron Carter-Vickers. Referee, Nick Walsh. 27th of October, Alex Gogic on Tommy Rogic. Don Robertson. 20th of November, Sean Rooney on Welsh. Nick Walsh. And on the 5th of December, Callum Butcher butchering Turnbull. Referee, Don Robertson. So what we've got there is 1 for Bobby Madden, 2 for Clancy, 2 for Robertson, 2 for Walsh. All red cards, none given. So I'm watching Ref Watch, Tony, on the telly this morning, and they never actually give the referee option D, book Paul Elliott. But I did think about that when they were showing all the different decisions. And one of the decisions that they showed was David Turnbull. And without hesitation, he was like red card all day long. I've seen images of the movement of Turnbull's leg. If his boot sticks that wee bit more in the turf, his leg's broken. Simple as that. And now they're 7 that I've noticed and I've stuck on my list. There's been others. For example, Tony Ralston was kicked off the park against Hearts. None of the actual assaults on him or tackles on him, specifically ended his performance that night. But it was accumulative, right? That performance by Bobby Madden, I'm surprised only one on the list is Bobby Madden's. But that performance on Thursday night where Hearts kicked Celtic off the park and came away with no bookings. And then, you look at a sending off that Celtic have had this season, albeit in the B League, right? They're playing Clyde, Amy. Conor Hazard gets sent off. Penalty Clyde, 3 yards at the box. So,
That's dreadful, that.
It is absolutely horrific. And my issue here is protecting our players. Now we've got Chris Julian. Yes, it was a post that did him. But when a player is out for a year, because a lot of these tackles could have ended the season of any of the players that I've mentioned. You think of Callum McGregor. You think of the one there with Turnbull. These are going to end your season. They're going to break your leg. We need protection. At what point, Tony, do we speak up as a club about this?
I think they have to speak up now because it's too frequent, isn't it? And I'm not just talking about Celtic. Someone from any team is going to end up missing their star player because of a broken leg. And that yesterday it's the very definition of a red card. It's reckless, it's high, it's endangering an opponent. And do you know what I want to know? I want to know why he's given a yellow card. Because see if he's seen that, it's a red card all day long. Yep. So the yellow card to me says that he didn't see that, and neither his assistant can bail him out. So if they two guys only seen a major flashpoint in the football match, what are they doing in that position? They are unfit for purpose. because that's the only controversial incident in that game. It's a straight red all day long, and I'd say it if it was committed on any footballer in the league, right? But somebody from some team, not Celtic, is going to end up with a leg breaker this season. And I don't wish it on MD, but it's going to be due to the ineptitude of the officials, right? And that's a straight red card. It's that much of a red card. Even Chris Boyd was in the Sky Studio saying it was a red card. So it must have been a red card, right? It must have been. But you get back to it. He has not seen that. How as a referee can you not see that and give a yellow card, right? And I think the rules are that in extreme circumstances, you can get a retrospective red. He's going to get a citation from Hampden for that. He has to. And see if he doesn't, then Celtic are entitled to wade in at the SFA weeks and say, right, what's going on here? Right? Because as you say, we have a litany. There's 7, probably more, right? And an unmagnificent 7, if you want to call it that. And it's far too often, and it's every week we have a 10-minute segments where we're having a blast at referees. And I hate doing it because I'm no conspiracy theorist. But I want them to open their eyes and referee a game. I'm not asking for favours. I'm asking for fairness. I'm asking them to referee a football match. That's a shocker yesterday. It's the definition of a shocker. In Turnbull, it's on Turnbull's leg where I think he had trouble before. That's why he was out, wasn't it? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, Tony, you're right. It's not about, it's about protecting the players. That is the angle I'm always going to come at with this. Protect the players.
And also, and I don't care who they play for, protect the players. Like that, as an official, you have a duty of protection to players to stop them from being on the end of reckless and challenges which endanger an opponent, which I believe is in the rule book of red cards. How we can watch that at any speed yesterday and say that's not a red card is utterly beyond me. It really is an astonishing piece of refereeing. So you flash a yellow card, cop out to say, well, he'll not get done retrospectively because I've dealt with it. The two of them, because he went across to his assistant, and I don't know if you noticed as well, Callum McGregor chased him for about 25 yards. Callum McGregor was going off his head, and that's what I quite liked as well. Yeah. So I thought, Callum, don't let him off with this. Nip his nut, get into him. It's a red card. I don't like seeing fellow professionals try to get a guy sent off, but that's as blatant as they come. And myself and Amy had a private chat the other night about Peter Haring, didn't we? From Hearts, who was allowed to kick Celtic players without any kind of action taken against them.
Yeah.
And on yesterday with Butcher, the punishment didn't fit the crime. He walks away with a yellow card, and he could have put a guy out for a year.
No, exactly. You look at Turnbull, he's lost a year of his career already. Julian, we don't even know when he's coming back. You've got to protect the player. Interesting enough, when I'm watching it, Amy, somebody in the Dundee United bench jumps up as if there's some kind of issue with one of his players. What's your thoughts on this? Because, Turnbull, for me, we've spoken a lot about him this season, but he's on the cusp, right? Because there's so many players that show so much potential, but he's on the cusp of taking that to the next level. He's in and around the Scotland international team. He's performed well for Celtic domestically. We want to see that on the European stage. He's at that point in his career. Young Player of the Year last season. Let's push it up to the next level. The last thing he needs is another year in the sidelines.
I'm nodding along to what Tony's saying because everything that he said just there, I've been saying it for weeks, that the most worrying concern for me is that if a referee, and on so many of the ones that you've labelled out, which I was laughing at as well, because you do have a real bee in your bonnet about this, but I was laughing because, and then I'm checking my phone because I know there's more than 7. Because my dad messages me every time that there's one, and I was trying to scroll back her messages, but I couldn't find any because there's that many. But there is more than 7. But out of the 7 that you've labelled, how many were given as yellows? And that is the worrying thing for me, that if a referee, or not even a referee, a human being is saying that, and you are not seeing that as a endangering a player or endangering a person, like it's incredible. I do have to laugh at the guy on the Dundee United bench. I don't know who it was, a first team coach, whatever. I don't know if he was wanting a foul for Butcher, or if he was wanting a throw-in for Dundee United. I have no idea what that was. Butcher as well is just not like, I think that even might be his first game back from his suspension, so he does have a history with it. And I'm with you that, you know, retrospective action, if it can be taken, I know some yellows can get upgraded when it's these like ridiculous scenarios, but it's not protecting Celtic in any way. It's not aiding Celtic in any way. But if it means that it does, you know, protect other players, then I genuinely am all for it, because it just has no place in the game. But for guys like Turnbull, and they don't. I'm not one for saying that, yeah, they should have extra protection, because if she was on the other boot for another team, then I'd be like, nah, you can't have that. But you have to just protect the player. I don't care if he's young, old, Scottish, or, you know, Australian. I don't care. He just has to protect the players. The referee has that's his duty, to protect the players, and going out to try and play football. And you know it in other leagues as well, and I think that's perhaps the frustrating thing in European football, that creative players do have that extra bit of protection. And I'm not for that, because I think every player should be treated the same kind of thing. But maybe a leaf does have to be taken out of that book in some way. You know, the Italians, it's all the beautiful football. The Spanish referees just love dishing out yellow cards left, right and centre, to be honest. But maybe that is what's needed in our game, that, you know, I don't know, just a little bit of like the more finesse that a player possesses. But there kind of has to be something, because across the board, I'm kind of sick of coming on week in, week out, that every time you come on, there is just another red card incident added onto your long list in that wee black book of yours. And rightly so.
It's actually a green and white one at the moment.
Oh, have you got a green and white one now? Yeah. Oh, check you. Must have lost the black one. But it's just a joke, you know, and we can sit here. It's absolutely frightening, to be honest.
It is. It's really poor. And I think, again, I look back on Jeremy Frimpong, and I look at the abuse he got. You know, he was targeted time and time again, Tony. And you think to yourself, well, when you do have a young player coming in, when they get an opportunity to go elsewhere, I mean, Amy's listed a couple of leagues that deal with this type of issue differently. I mean, it might be in the back of their mind, well, I'm off-skate, because these, you know, the officials just don't protect you here. So the minute I get an opportunity to go to Germany, I'm away.
Yeah, I mean, I also say as well, see if the board weren't so out of touch, and you had somebody there that was doing what you, I and Amy are doing, and had the club's best interests at heart, they would have been jumping up and down after the Callum McGregor one, say, we're not having that, fighting Celtic's cause. The manager would do it, but he's too busy running a football club and busying himself with other things, like trying to win leagues and trophies and cups and make you successful, you know. But the manager would do that in a heartbeat, because he gets it, you know. But if we had someone upstairs like that, like you, like I, like Amy, like thousands of other supporters, Celtic supporters that have seen this and are calling it out and are saying, look, this is getting to a ridiculous stage. It's not even about bias or you know, it's about incompetence. You know, it's about people not being fit for purpose. And I'm not just wanting it for Celtic, I want it for every football team. I want the referees to up their game, because it's a matter of time before somebody's going to get a serious injury and going to be carted off the park and they're going to be out forever. And I don't know if it'll be a Celtic player, might be a Rangers player, Motherwell player, Hibs player. It doesn't matter what player it is. Someone's going to get away with murder on somebody, basically, and put them out of the game for a long time. And you can't have that. We are discussing every week a 10-minute segment of challenges on Celtic players because we watch Celtic and it's happening to the team that we support.
Yeah.
Every other club's going to have the same as you, Paul, a litany of challenges. And I'd like to think somebody would be documenting them. I'd like to think somebody would be, you know, at their club, higher up the chain, would be saying, right, wait a minute, that's just not right. You know, somebody at Celtic has to pick up the cudgels on this and just say, as I keep saying, this is not about favours, it's about fairness, and it's about refereeing the game, it's about doing your job. How could I get back to it? I'd have to be strapped to a chair and so that I can't move or speak and explain to me why that's a yellow card. I shook my head incredulously yesterday. It's a red card all day long because it ticks every box of the red card offence and the wording about a red card. Excessive force, high, studs up, endangering an opponent, reckless, like all of these things. And if a referee can't see that, and that's his job to see that, or an assistant can't see that, but you know the problem here is they'll be back refereeing Celtic and Rangers again next week. There is no punishment. They should be refereeing Bonnie Rig Rose. They should be shaking Rainey's hand.
Whoa.
They should be shaking.
Amy, you want to come in here?
Whoa.
I wouldn't wish that.
It's just about the early level. Then I get me started.
You know, but Amy should be saying that the referee this week for the Bonnie Rig Rose game is Bobby Madden, having dropped down from the top flight. You know, that kind of thing. I'm being a bit flippant there, but you know what I mean? There's no punishment. These guys just get the same games on a cycle. You said there, one was Bobby Madden, two was Nick Walsh, two were Clancy. You know, so repeat offenders in terms of the Celtic players. So there's nothing happening to them. So they know that, well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Because, they continue, as is. I just think as well, though, again, there'll be other clubs with a list like this. The players that we have lost to injury. You look at the players who've been lost to injury. You remember John Kennedy, the horrific challenge on Kennedy, up and coming. A meteoric rise was in front of him in terms of a Celtic centre-half and a career that he might have had. And we're just left wondering the career that he may have had. You'll remember, Tony, a young player that we brought in from Nottingham Forest called Stevie Murray. So he was Stevie Murray the second at Celtic in the 1980s, midfield player. I think it was against Motherwell in a reserve game, leg breaker. Brian McLaughlin, the first Brian McLaughlin. Career wasn't ended, but he was never the same player. Willie McVie, Clyde took him out. So there are occasions where you remember players' careers that you've been cut short and you just don't want it. I mean, imagine Turnbull being in plaster this morning. It's just unthinkable, and they really need to sort it out. We spoke earlier on this season about the impact of Kyogo. Unbelievable player. He's got a turn of pace and he plays the offsides so well that he's causing havoc with the officials. Unfortunately, because those officials are so bad, like we've described, they're going to get it wrong more often than they get it right when it comes to Kyogo. But what really interested me during the week, and again, Tony, I'll ask you first, head of referees Crawford Allen comes out to say that Kyogo's goal against Hearts probably should have been disallowed, yet he'll not come out and protect Scottish footballers or players playing in Scottish football.
I don't take Crawford Allen seriously at all. Why should you? Where has he been? And why come out after that? I'll refer him to Ange's comment. It's a goal, mate. Move on. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The guys who you are supposed to be in charge of gave a goal. What's to be gained by Crawford Allen coming out and saying, well, actually, it shouldn't have been a goal? You know, what happened to play the whistle? You're told that as a kid. Play the whistle.
What does it do to the refs, though? What do you reckon it does to the refs in the future? I mean, does that put a wee element of doubt in their minds, Amy, when they're about to call a decision against Celtic, but the head of referees have already made it public and you basically pulled your shorts down in public by saying you got it wrong? It's going to put a doubt in their mind, isn't it?
It is, and I'm kind of like Tony. I think the less you listen to him, the better. Because, you just need to look at the reaction kind of from it, right? It's tight. I understand that if we're talking about Kyogo's goal on Thursday, but it's a goal. It's been given. You're not going to retrospectively do it now, and I just think, like you say, it's not. Coming out, they're quick enough to come and perhaps back the referees, when ridiculous, life-threatening injuries, challenges are made kind of thing. But I don't know. I'm just kind of off the belief that the less you really listen to him, the better, because, as Tony says, where's he been?
What did Crawford Allen add to that debate?
Exactly.
What did he add? What fresh?
I think what he added...
Uh-huh.
He added an element of doubt going forward in referee and linesmen's heads or assistant referees' heads.
I think it's already there.
Yeah, because they'll be thinking, well, we're going to get called out. So I think it was, it was counterproductive for him to come out and do that.
Yeah, but did he add it when referees are refereeing Celtic games or every game? No.
I would say
that remains to be seen, doesn't it?
Well, again, yeah.
But we'll be watching Celtic games, won't we?
The biggest problem they're going to have is Kyogo because of the way he plays the game, and with the turn of pace he has. There's nobody else in Scottish football who's going to give them as many headaches as he is.
People of an older generation will remember that Bobby Lennox was lightning quick, wasn't he?
Yeah, 1966 European Cup Winners' Cup semi-final.
Yeah, he used to get flagged offside all the time, didn't he? My dad would tell me. And then Pat Creran, there's a famous clip of Pat Creran saying that, Lennox was about 3 yards inside his own half and the referee flagged him for offside, and he said Celtic Park was, his word was the fans were in tatters because it was just like incredible. So, history tells you get players like this who are lightning quick. And I get that they've got a split second. That split second decision was made the other night. Regardless of where you fall on it, it's a goal, mate. Move on. I keep getting back to it. So why is there such a big stushy about this particular decision? I think you have to ask that question. Yeah. And the big stushy came from the fact that somebody in a Sky studio, i.e. Chris Boyd, kicked up a real stink about it.
He literally got ex-Hearts captain Christoph Berra.
Telling him to take the blue tinted glasses off. We're still in Petrov and Christoph saying
that look on still in Petrov's face. I think you tweeted it, did you know? It was just
you get them, you don't, Kofi, you don't. But this guy wouldn't let it go. Right? And all of a sudden we have the head of refereeing supervisors for SFA in Scotland coming out on national radio. Where has he been? You couldn't pick Crawford Allen out in an ID parade. Right? No, he used to be a referee. You might remember him from being a referee, but you probably don't because he wasn't that good. Right? He wasn't that good. He wasn't a referee where you say, I've said before, the finest refereeing display I've ever seen at Celtic Park, Pierluigi Collina. Stuttgart. When Celtic played Stuttgart, Celtic went 1-0 down and he sent a Stuttgart player off because of a professional foul. Celtic won 3-1. He reffed the game.
Yep.
And which is why it sticks out in your mind, because he reffed the game and he refereed it with authority and he was a big imposing figure and everybody knew who Pierluigi Collina was. And a lot of people came away from that game saying, what a terrific Celtic performance. But one of the few times everybody was talking about what a high standard of refereeing performance that was. The only time I've ever...
That's why it's memorable.
Praise a referee, right? Yeah. Because, and also in the lead up to it, you were like, Pierluigi Collina's refereeing Celtic. Oh man, I wonder what he's going to do. Didn't he do anything? He just reffed the game. And you're just thinking, wow. And that's what makes the difference. See, if you ref the game, you problems kind of dissipate. They'll disappear. Because if you're sharp and you're on the ball then, and you're confident in your own ability, you will do it and you will breeze through it or you will sail through it. Because that's what you're meant to do. Referee the game.
No, you're right.
To err is human. You'll get things wrong, and that's fine. You can live with that. But see if they're like sporadic moments in your refereeing career, then nobody will. It's just every week
and it's across the board because there's a number of refs and the 7 deadly sins that I've listed here, and I'm sure there'll be more as we go forward. Listen, let's get a wee bit more positive. Right, the charity weekender. Unbelievable weekend. Amy, you popped in on Saturday. What was the mood in the camp when you came in? It was snowing, wasn't it, when you came in here?
I came in because Boiling Rosie's game was called off due to the snow because you couldn't see the lines. But it was ridiculous.
I met you for the first time, Amy. Yeah,
I didn't meet you for the first time, Tony. But it was, and then I got down to Dalkeith for Sophia Bonner. It's only literally, it should only be a 5-minute drive. Took an hour and a half because everything was at a standstill. It was absolutely mental. Hence the reason that I didn't hop on. But and then you get down to Dalkeith and there was no snow at all. So it was just one of those crazy, crazy days. But no, the mood was good in the camp. Tony was there, Lawrence was there, Kevin Tate was there, and well, you were there, but you're always there. Who cares? And then you make the tea. You did make me a cup of tea as well, by the way. That's one of the first things.
Because viewers, I can confirm that the boss
doesn't usually make tea, though, I can assure you. But and the Celtic Thunder guys were on. So
that was a cracking show, actually.
It was a cracking show. They were brilliant, and it was great to finally meet those guys as well. But as Tony says, we finally got to meet each other as well. But everything, you could just... and obviously Kevin Tate was there, and everything that's obviously the auction's going to start to take place. That that was all there as well, and it's just absolutely incredible, really. The studio is a shrine already, we all know that, but it was an even greater shrine, and it will still be right now, but it was just a great weekend all round. It really was, and everybody who's contributed, it's just an absolute credit.
And the words of Public Enemy, the epitome of Public Enemy, don't believe the hype. We all get on. All those guys that came, the fellow podcasters, every one of them was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Absolutely terrific. So lots of love for Tommy and Franks yesterday. Lots of people commented on that. The Celtic, the Thunder guys, Ryan 118, Ryan and Kieran, hadn't met any of them before. And they were cracking guys, brilliant guys. Just to actually put faces to names and meet them in person, and there was real love and support and camaraderie about what we were doing at the weekend, and that's what I'll take from that there's a narrative out there that we don't get on, and it's nothing further from the truth. We're all doing a similar thing. We all do it to the best of our ability, and we all do it because we love the entity that is Celtic Football Club, and all the supporters that donated. I touched on it on Saturday, and I said a wee spiel before I came on, and it's in your DNA to help, to be charitable, because the club's founded on those roots. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people that wanted to get involved, that got involved, that got in touch, and I include the fellow podcasters, it's just a credit to the actual club itself and the supporters of the football club that they want to do that. But the minute you see it, I don't know how many got involved, Paul, you'll be able to tell me, but they couldn't wait to get involved when you reached out, and they were all a credit to their own particular podcast by putting up what I would say was high quality content for 24 hours over the weekend, and the money that they raised, you cannot. Hat tip to everybody, but basically, it's, and as I said as well, it's quite humbling when you do something like that, and for the cause that everybody did it for, then you deserve to sort of sit back today and feel good about yourself and know for a fact that in your heart and soul you've done a good thing.
Well, I think the Celtic support, as you say, they stepped up, Tony. Just to give everybody an update, £20,855 currently raised. We're going to keep the GoFundMe page open this week, but those funds will go directly to St Mary's. We'll get them transferred over as soon as we possibly can. It takes a few days, I think, from GoFundMe, but we'll keep the account open so that people can continue to donate during the bulletins this week. The link will be underneath the videos, and as you say, Damien, we will be starting an auction as well. So really looking forward to seeing what the final total will be. It's looking like it will be about 25k, so that's tremendous, and it's for the birthplace of Celtic, and hopefully the club will see the interest that this has created and perhaps start to engage again with St Mary's with a view to a longer term plan. Now, on the headline, Ange Celtic mesmerise. They do mesmerise, just as reinforcements line up. We've been hearing all the chat about the potential January arrivals. When I look at that, Amy, we have been very critical in the past of Celtic doing their business late. It's always late in the day, and then you're starting to get that whole deadline day buzz, and then John Joe Kenny comes in. But this time, it looks as though we've got three Japanese, I was going to say Japanese internationals, because two of them are, one of them's been in and around the squads, coming in from a league known only too well by Ange Postecoglou. What's your thoughts on this? Because there's a few different ways you can kind of view it. It's definitely Ange that's bringing these ones in, isn't it? Yeah,
I think the way that Ange is kind of, dealing with it is exceptional. I'll be honest, I just caught it on Twitter, but he was saying, I think I'm getting linked to everybody in the Japanese league, and I'm sure he made a little clip as well saying, well, I know the Korean league pretty well as well, so go and have a little dip in that. So he's just kind of toying with the media right now, and I think it's absolutely exceptional, to be honest. But yeah, of course there's going to be, we say it week in, week out, the only, the example he has is Kyogo. If that's the first guy he can bring in, and there's apparently, a string of others, and then that is the perfect case. It's the case study, isn't it? It's the initial one. So look, if I can bring in this guy, if you give me the money to go out and dip into this market, look who I can bring in, and I'll give you another 2, 3, 4 Kyogos. Then on you go.
Can you imagine? Honestly, I mean, I do love dipping into markets that the manager knows well, and I always remember that incredible photograph back in the 80s when football was a different world, Tony, but there was the AC Milan triple signing of Rijkaard, Van Basten and Hullet, the three guys standing there with one of the greatest kits ever, with Hullet with the dreads. It was just tremendous, and you think, well, they went for the 3 Dutchmen, we could be going for the 3 Japanese players. So let's run through them, and apologies in advance for my pronunciation. I'll start getting them right once we get more familiar with the players. So Daisen Maeda, striker, 24 years of age, worked under Ange, and we know that Tommy Rogic worked under Ange, and he's doing okay. We have Josuke Ideguchi. That's all right. And he's a central midfielder, 25 years of age. And Rio Hatate, who we've been hearing about, he can play midfield, also left back, 24 as well, Tony. But I just think the fact that it looks as though we're looking to do our business early, the fact that nobody can dispute that these guys are wanted by Ange is all very positive.
Would it surprise you if two of them are on the bench for the Rangers game?
I'd love it if they were.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I would love it if they were.
He is genuinely trying to get guys in and swiftly, right? And even then, it would just give you a real boost as well heading into that game, whether they featured or not, right? But I love the way Amy said he's dealing with it. Somebody said to him, what about these players? And I think his comment was, I think I've been linked with everybody in the J League. He said, there's good players in Korea as well, isn't there? Something like that, right? And I just love that kind of attitude about him. It's a guy that knows what he's doing, and he's not going to tell anybody anything.
So media savvy, media savvy.
Yeah, right. And he's just not going to tell anybody anything until the deals are over the line and the players are here. And then, but we said it earlier on that the one signing that you knew was Ange's was Kyogo, right? And we kept saying from then on in, if this board's going to trust him, then surely they could turn around and say to him, any more Kyogos where that came from? Funnily enough, you should mention that. List like that, right? The Magna Carta of players that he's going to sign now. All you have to do is put your name at the bottom of that and sign off the money part of it, right? Which is always going to be a difficulty, but you trust his judgment implicitly now. And if it's a league he knows well and players he's worked under, as you say, and I flippantly refer it to as the Jedi mind trick that he's played on players, right? Because he's turned Anthony Ralston into a Scotland internationalist. He's turned Tom Rogic into, part of a holy trinity in that midfield with McGregor.
He's turned Near Beaton into a midfielder.
Yeah, what I mean? He's actually made McGregor a better player, if that's humanly possible, right? But, so you look at him and you think, we're in safe hands, right? And I'm the first to admit, when he came in first, I was sceptical and I wanted to reserve judgment, and I didn't really know much about him, and I went and researched him, and I'm delighted he's there. I'm absolutely delighted. And I'm just delighted the fact that we now have a manager that you trust. You like his public utterances. He's a very good orator. He's got the players back. He will fight for his club. And it's everything you want in a manager. He doesn't get drawn into petty stuff about referees, but he lets you know in certain terms, don't mess with me. There was that great clip the other night about the referee, and he went, well, it wasn't the referee that decided that game, but if he did, then he's got 3 points, but he'd still be bottom of the league. Stuff like that, you're thinking, big man, that's magnificent. Well-rehearsed ad-libs or not, it doesn't matter. He's pulling them out the air, at times when you turn around and you say, that's our manager. Why wouldn't you know? And managers know footballers, they know leagues, they know players. Why wouldn't you trust them? Why wouldn't you trust him to bring in 3 Japanese players from a league, not only where he's managed, he's actually managed those players?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate no-brainer to turn around and say to him, how much buys these guys? and he said, well, he can do this job, that job, and that job for this team. This is where I see it. You don't even need to, you know what I mean? The money men will not understand that because he'll blind them with football chat. All he has to say is, look, empty your pockets, let me do the rest. It's on me. And he keeps saying that, it's on him. So whoever he brings in will be on him. Just give him the tools to do so. And if it's on him, fine, let's see where we are come May. But I trust him. Amy trusts him. You trust him, don't you?
The big thing for me, Tony, you look at the job he had to do with the team, the squad, the morale, the want-away players who are now away. But he also had a job to do in re-galvanising the support. Because we not only lost faith last season in the board, we'd lost faith in the team and we'd lost faith in the management of that team. And that has been a massive turnaround since Ange came in. It'd be brilliant. I can't wait to see that triple signing picture at Celtic Park with the three of them, Amy. That would be great. It would, take back to some of the famous ones in the past, Tony. It was Hearts and Guppy and Silla. The other one was Andy Payton, Stuart Slater, Rudy Vata. This would be another cracker, like the three players coming in. But, and again, I'm not trying to put a negative twist on this. Is it enough? And what I mean by that is I expect players to leave Celtic in January. You're looking at players like Haggerty, Barkas, Bolingoli, Soros falling out of favour. A couple of the young guys we mentioned earlier might be put out on loan, but they're part of the first team squad. So if we bring three in, bearing in mind a couple of injuries throws us into disarray at the moment, would it be enough?
I can see us making some movements in January, like out the door as well. Obviously, you've got to hope that the guys will come in as we've mentioned, but I can see, they're just sitting there. And I know we have to talk about depth, and I appreciate that, but the depth has to be of the standard that they can still come in and replace who's ever's out. And that's kind of been the issue over the last few weeks, and certainly for this first part of the season, that the guys that have been coming in, the replacements, as we've said, haven't been to that standard. So in the same breath where you're saying, well, you need the strength in numbers, you need the strength to be there. And I don't think, that Sorrow's hitting the heights right now. I don't think Bolingoli's hitting the heights right now. And haven't been for some time. And I think we've all kind of got the same attitude and stance regarding Barkas. I think you just have to get him off the wage bill. It's just one of these, it's just a failed mission, a failed chance. So I just think it's just time for it to go. And I get what you're saying, that we need, the numbers there. This is all Tony is there. But my screen went off a minute ago as well, and that's why I think the comments of she fell asleep. But obviously somebody's trying to attack us. But I just think, to round off, that Bolingoli, Sorrow, Barkas, I think that their time is up at Celtic.
Yeah, definitely. And if, of course, we get the three in, we'll be delighted, and I will learn the pronunciations properly for the first show when we are singing their praises. Now, Laura, from time to time, mentions the fact that she's met the great man on official ACSOM business, and she interviewed Ange Postecoglou.
Yes. Great man, did she?
Yeah.
No.
And it's great that you think about engagement, right? So far, just in the ACSOM team, you've had Laura interviewing Ange, you had Natasha interviewing Ange, which was the introduction to Ange Postecoglou, and you've had Declan, I think, probably goes for lunch with him 2 or 3 times a week now. So out of the ACSOM team,
who else?
Declan's stalking Ange now, to be fair to Declan, you know what I mean? So that's
I thought it was the other way about, actually.
Changes, and it's just a different picture with Ange. I'm sure many times you meet some.
That's like I'm picking up hunting stage now, you know what I mean?
Just calls him by his Twitter handle.
I know. But talking about Natasha speaking to Ange, she also spoke to Fran Alonso yesterday after the women's team won the SWPL trophy, the cup, and they beat Glasgow City 1-0. There's an interview with Fran. It's now on our YouTube, so check it out. Caitlin Hayes scored the winner. Every time, they do something that brings them back into the kind of public eye, I think to myself, it's brilliant. The work Fran Alonso's doing tremendous, and we're big fans. But in order to get more people involved, and I'm going to throw this one to you first, Amy. What's your thoughts on this? Buy a season ticket, and it becomes a dual season ticket to go and watch the women's team. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't argue with that. The women's game in particular, it is more often than not, it's a Sunday. It is on a Sunday. Obviously, it's more for European nights and TV nights. Celtic will play on a Sunday, but if Celtic playing on a Saturday, get along to support the girls on a Sunday. The standard of the SWPL one, it is honestly, it is increasing. And there's a few folk coming in, and they're thinking that I just only support Brother and Girls now. But I have been lucky enough, and it's. I ticked it off, and obviously I shared it with you guys, but I got to commentate on Celtic Women for the BBC a few weeks ago, and it was amazing. It was just such an honour, really, and it is a real thing. Tick off the list. Tony, you'll get that these little things, they're just amazing. But the girls are absolutely thriving right now, and it is the way that we're seeing the impact that Ange Postecoglou's having on the guys. Fran Alonso's just having that on the girls. That's the girls' first trophy in 10 years. It's absolutely amazing, and everybody knows, even if you're not into your women's football, which it is just football. I hate myself for even calling it women's football. It is just football. Glasgow City are the top dogs, the dominance is unbelievable. But Hibs,
what a success story, Amy.
It is, and it's all
because they don't have a team to pin it onto,
Exactly. And they obviously Celtic knocked out Hibs, who were the holders in the semi-final, and then they've beat the top guys in Glasgow City in the final. It's a terrific journey, and I'm so delighted because there's so many good girls in there. I've been lucky enough to chat to some of them. I know Natasha has as well. And proper Celtic fans, you'll find a fair few Celtic fans in there, and Caitlin Hayes is one of them. That's a childhood dream, and as the girl here as well, I can vouch for that. I know everybody says every little boy's dream is to score for the boyhood club, score for Celtic. It's the exact same when you're a girl. I loved it. I got to play in the Celtic Academy when I was younger, and it was always like the Tommy Burns was running it and all those little things, and you just loved it. Coming home with your little Celtic strip on it was brilliant. So the dream's there for both sides, for the guys and the girls, but it is a ridiculously amazing achievement, and I'm so glad that Celtic are not jumping on the bandwagon, but they're giving the respect and the kudos to the girls, which is deserved. And hopefully Fran delivers many more trophies, because it is a really, really great time to be watching the girls right now.
No, it is. I mean, Tony, if it was part of a season ticket, you'd find yourself checking it out, wouldn't you? And then once you've experienced it and enjoy it, I just think it'd be a good way trying to build the support of the women's game.
Of course, that double-edged sword to the season ticket, people would go along out of curiosity, wouldn't they? It's only natural. And as Amy says, the women's game has been improving for years and years and years. I used to cover Glasgow City for the Daily Record, and I was there when they played Paris Saint-Germain in the
Ginola used to play for PSG, didn't he?
in the Champions League. And I was given the brilliant line by one of the girls at Glasgow City, and she said the Paris Saint-Germain flew into Glasgow on a private jet. They were going on EasyJet to Paris, so that was the kind of disparity between the two clubs, and I thought, well, there you go, that was it in a nutshell. But Paris Saint-Germain threw a lot of money at it, the women's team, and Glasgow City, as you say, weren't affiliated to a club at that time, so they could get so far in the Champions League. But that was at Airdrie, and there was a lot of interest then in Glasgow City when they were making inroads in the Champions League, but they could only get so far, and it was they always ended up losing out to teams with bigger resources. But I've been well aware of the women's game for years and years, and as Amy says, the journey that Celtic have been on has been incredible, and Fran Alonso has done a fantastic job with the women's team, and fair play to them. And you can only clap that success and wish them more success, because Glasgow City have been a powerhouse in women's football, and a big reason why the league is now so strong, because they set the template and the standard by which other women's teams had to follow, and they had to be good. And when you're on that lofty perch, people want to knock you off it. And it was Laura Montgomery, whose name came to me as I was talking there, that said that great line that Paris Saint-Germain flew in private jet, we went EasyJet, and I just thought, and that was the headline and when I wrote about the piece, and He was Laura and all the girls at Glasgow City were very kind whenever I went up to speak to them. And as Amy says, they're all football daft. They all support clubs. You know, and they're all living out their dream, living out their football dream. And I applaud that. And I applaud Celtic for winning that trophy yesterday, because it's no mean feat to beat Glasgow City in the final.
Oh, definitely. Check it out. Check out the interviews on YouTube. Fran looking as suave as ever. One final thought for everybody who's tuned in today. Apparently, Ange Postecoglou, since moving to Celtic, has got himself a dog, and he's calling it Declan. So there you go. The wee man is a popular figure in and around Glasgow. I'm just looking up on the screen. Dan Orlowitz is on Sky Sports talking about Celtic's targets. So he was on during the pre-season on ACSOM talking about Ange Postecoglou, and he's a good authoritative voice on the Japanese game. So there we have it. Thank you, everybody. We're going to continue with the GoFundMe this week. We're going to be giving as much funds as possible to St Mary's, the birthplace of Celtic. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. If I haven't responded to you personally for donations, etc., I will get round to that, so thank you. And all that's left for me to say is Amy Canavan and Tony Haggerty, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.